Good afternoon, everyone.
Hello. Might give it just until 2:01 and if anyone else joins and we'll get started.
Yeah.
We have a great topic for you today, and it's a part one of part two. So, all right, it's 2:01. So, hello everyone. Welcome to Tips and Tricks. We have, like I was just saying, we have an exciting 30 minutes planned for you today, and it is a part one of part two. So today we're going to talk about why we use, how we use them, use cases for beginner, intermediate, and advanced Syms. And next week we'll actually create some. So it's a part one of part two. And today I have Kalpana Verma, who is our senior implementation manager here at SymTrain. She's going to join me and talk about it because she actually works and manages our sim creation team, our implementation team, and she is very familiar with creating these levels of sims and how they're used and why people love them. So welcome, Kalpana, for joining me.
Hi, Jamie. Hi, hello, everyone. I hope you all are doing great. And few of you might have already known me or know me. Yeah, and those who
Yes.
don't know me, yeah. I'm Kalpana Verma, as Jamie has already introduced me. I take care of simple sim creators team, and then I also take care of ensuring that SymTrain is implemented on other program, and then it is successfully launched.
She does a
Yeah, you
lot.
have it.
And it's definitely, using these different levels of sims is so important to the whole process of a learner's experience, their retention of what they learn, making sure that they are really getting everything out and of SymTrain, because everyone learns differently. Everyone learns at a different speed, at a different level. So I just want to begin by asking, Kalpana, when do you create beginner, intermediate, and advanced sims for our clients?
For me, I would say it's all the time because it is really very important to create all three difficulty levels. You don't want your agents to, just go ahead and tell them that you are just ready by doing one mock call. And this is the reason we have simulation. This is the reason we have SymTrain, because we want the agents to be trained step by step. When they feel confident, when they feel ready, that's where they will be start taking call with their confidence. So yeah, it is very important to create all three difficulty levels.
I agree completely. And then, being able to go back and forth, if I do a beginner sim, knowing that I'm going to get all the help I need to be able to successfully navigate that process, being able to, if I
Yep.
go and do an intermediate sim, I can test to myself that I've gone back and said, oh, I'm not quite ready for that yet, and practice that beginner again. So it gives you those, you know, as the user that you're ready to take that next step and you've retained enough of that information and created that muscle memory. Kalpana, what do our customers like about the levels of learning that you're able to create in SymTrain with these different levels of Sims?
So most of the customers, if I say, they love how we have designed each of the levels, because with the beginner level, the way we currently have, it says it teaches the agent, it trains the agent word by word, where to click, what to say, what not to say, and then intermediate level. So we are slowly and gradually training the agent. That's what most of the customer, everybody, they love it. That we're not just telling the agent that this is the simulation, you go ahead and you learn it. And since the tool is very user friendly, they love it with each difficulty levels.
It's just I can't imagine, doing SymTrain without the levels because it really allows
Oh
you
yeah,
to
of course.
retain it. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Um,
the best part, which I have been hearing from most of the customer, is that, once each of the agents they have been trained on each levels, the agents, they feel very confident. and they feel that yes, they want to go, they want to start taking calls, they're not afraid that I'm not sure what exactly the customer is going to say, I'm not sure what am I supposed to speak, but they feel ready, they feel confident.
I'm glad
Yeah.
you said that, because right when you said that, I felt like it gives them that overall confidence
Yeah.
of just being able to do the task, right? So even
Yeah.
if they get asked something else, they've gained this inner confidence in the overall processes. And I see that, and I feel that myself when I think about that. Um, in your opinion, what is the most important part of creation when you're making these different levels of Sims?
It is very important to create beginner level, because once you have created beginner level, creating intermediate and advanced is it's just a simple task, because you just have to clone the beginner level and you are done. Obviously, you'll be making few changes to sound like it is a difficulty level, different difficulty level. But as part of very important step, I would say that it is very important that you always QA your beginner level. You want to ensure that whatever you have created, it is presented the way you want your trainees to look at. Is it following the entire call flow in a right direction? Is it does it have the exact word or exact customer's tone which you want your agents to tone, which you want your agents to be prepared with, or everything. So it is very important that you first create the beginner level and then do the audit on it, just to ensure you have everything right the way you thought in your mind.
Yeah, yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense. That makes good sense. Um, do you have some tips? Because I mean, obviously, it's tips and tricks. A lot of
Yep.
people on this call create Sims. What are some tips that you would give Sim creators making these different levels of Sims?
So one thing which I have observed, and as a best practice which we have been following in SymTrain, is that do not create lengthy sims, because if you create lengthy sims, there are chances that the agents, the trainees, they might lose their focus till the time they reach the end of the sim. So we want to ensure that the simulations are for trainees, so we want to ensure that they are interested in it, they are putting their 100% attention towards the sim which they are running. And to do that, first of all, always ensure that you're creating a short sim. And if you think it is not possible for you to create short sim because you have a very difficulty level in which you want to ensure that it is showing in a right manner, so you can create steps out of it. And by creating steps, now steps could be like first step, how to do opening or the opening of the call. Second step, identify your customer's concern. Third step, upselling, objection handling, depending on the call you have. And then closing, which can cover how to close the sale or how to close the call. So depending on the scenarios, depending on the steps which you have created, the best part is also that once you have created the steps, you can always assign those steps to your agents if in case you feel like that there are specific agents who are only struggling with a specific area. Like you might have few agents who are good with the entire call, but not good with how to upsell customer. So you don't have to create or you don't have to assign the entire sim to them. Instead, you can simply just go ahead and assign that upselling part to him. And yeah, so it is very important, create small sims just to ensure that they can focus more.
Yeah, and I kind of even see, especially on certain areas, and I am sure that there are areas in simulations where this the process is a little bit more complex, and I can kind of see
Yeah.
maybe that part being a beginner, intermediate, and advanced to really allow them to learn that, or because new hires coming out of orientation, they learn so much, their head is full, right? It's a lot to know,
Yep.
and those areas that are really, really important that they get right as quickly as possible, maybe being able, like you say, creating that smaller, but still doing the levels so that they can test themselves and know when they need to practice it more. That's those are great tips.
Yep.
And I want to take a moment and ask our audience, do you guys have any questions for Kalpana? She does this all day. She is incredible at it. She works with all of our clients at a definitely as they begin to work and start their SymTrain journey, or her team does, she works with our sim creators very closely to make sure that they're creating the best sims possible. Are there any questions out there? I want to pause for a moment.
Yeah. If you have any question, not necessary that you have questions related to what are the best practices, but you have any questions related to sim creation, please feel free to, yeah, you can just go ahead and either share it in the chat or unmute yourself, whatever makes you feel comfortable. Seems like
Yeah.
everybody is expert in sim
Okay.
creation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, thank you so much, Kalpana, because your insight is invaluable, right? I mean, it is really important to the whole journey that not only that the trainee takes with their learning journey, and with SymTrain making it as practice friendly as possible. People learn by doing. So thank you so much for all of your insight on there. Colvin is going to remain here. So if you have any questions that you think of throughout the call, and we're always available after as well, but put it in
Yep.
chat.
I'm right here.
Um, Yep. So I want to kind of go over, because like I said, this is a part one and part two. I want to make sure that going into next week, where we create beginner, intermediate, advanced sims, and different ways you can do it, and different ways you can look at these different levels, how easy they are to create, and what Kalpana said, creating that beginner sim, making sure it is right before you go and create these different levels is a great tip. It will save tons of time, because it isn't, again, they aren't going to get the cues like in advanced sims. They're going to get coaching tips in intermediate, but again, all of that information is still in the background. So I wanted to start out by kind of going over the different use cases for the levels of sims. So obviously, new hire training, it's so important. They are learning a lot of things. And already going in, you probably already know where typically new hires struggle when they get out that first week, and their first 30 days on the floor. So, kind of thinking about what kind of sims you could create to really reinforce all of the information that they learned. Coaching. Coaching is a great place for levels of sims. I often think, we take sometimes these courses every quarter and for compliance or whatever the reason for our companies. And so using SymTrain as a coaching and saying, especially for tenured agents, they say, no, I've been doing this for a long time. I'm good. But we all know, is just like if I, stopped playing tennis today, I'm not going to, if I started playing back and, a year from now, I'm not going to be at the same level, right? You always have to kind of stay sharp on what you do. So being able to utilize SymTrain in these different levels of Sims for those tenured agents and say, this is a process that we continue to not get as high of QA scores that we want. And so we're going to do a simulation where you'll have a beginner. It tells you exactly how the process, the best way to handle this, an intermediate and advanced. And if you pass, we're going to do it every quarter just to make sure that we're all staying and being able to come to resolution on this particular process. I love the fact of using these different levels of sims for new processes being rolled out. You might have a process that is just a small change. Maybe it's just a small change, but it is imperative that all of the people on the floor, all of the agents are knowing and doing this new process immediately. You might have a beginner, intermediate, and advanced of a really short process that maybe isn't even a minute long. But can you imagine how much more they'll retain it faster if you could do a beginner, show them what it is, intermediate, and in an advanced, or a beginner and advanced. Sometimes, you can play around with what levels you give people for different processes. The intermediate is an imperative part of being, for those long processes, or being able to put something in their own words but staying within the structure. Upskilling. always looking at the agents on the floor and letting them improve on every part of the process. We all have different areas where our strengths are and where our weaknesses are. And so being able to upskill everyone to give them the ability to strengthen those parts where they're not as proficient. And then testing, I think, is a great use for levels of sim. Being able to know that people are retaining what you're teaching them, and then they are maintaining that level of excellence no matter how long they've been doing it. So love the ability of all of these different use cases. I wanted to take a minute. Are there any questions about those? And like I said, you can put it into chat or you can unmute yourself. We're all friends here, so you can be comfortable. Okay, so I wanted to go through just level by level, just so that you can kind of think about your curriculum that you currently have and how maybe certain areas of your curriculum where this makes great sense, right? Or how you can improve those. Maybe you use these different levels of Sims and how you can improve them. So use cases, new hire, really beginner Sims are really teaching a person to learn everything about this process in a new role. They have lots of new hires have, everything's new to them. So they definitely are going to need this beginner sim to teach them exactly what to do in these processes, exactly what that conversation, what good sounds like, that structure of that conversation or parts of the conversation that might be compliance that they have to memorize. New candidate assessment. Beginner Sims are great for that, being able to know whether somebody is at the level they need to even be considered a candidate. Sometimes in a resume or maybe even in a phone call with a candidate, it's hard to really gauge certain levels that they may be at. So this beginner sim is a great place to start with that. Back office employees, the navigation, being able to navigate certain programs. It's amazing, but being able to use Outlook if they, it's simple, but a lot of people sometimes don't have as much proficiency with it. You might have a requirement that we don't have time. We've got to have them at a certain level with these back office processes. New managers leading a team where they need to learn their role, right? How many managers, they maybe get promoted out of a different area and they're not as proficient with this exact role. Being able to go into SymTrain, take these beginner Sims and really learn what their team is doing is a great way to learn how they can be better at it. It is fully scripted, full navigation with highlights and coaching tips, everything they need to know. Say you're at 0, you can do the beginner sim, it brings you to 10. You will be able to know exactly what to do and how to do it. And that's the beauty of the beginner sim. This is the sim where Colvin says, you want to make sure this is exactly right because the intermediate and advanced all comes from the beginner sim. So that brings us here to intermediate. Intermediate Sims are great use cases for coaching, for upskilling, new process rollouts. Again, making sure that they are at the point where they are retaining that information. This is a practice tool to get better and move the bar for their learning. And so intermediate Sims are a great way to show that to you. This is going to replace exactly what to say and how to do it with coaching tips, telling them what they need to say. Introduce yourself and ask how you can help them, right? Instead of saying, hi, this is Jamie Leckman with SymTrain. How can I help you? Right? Or having the navigation instead of it having the flash and telling them why that's flashing, why they're doing it. Again, giving them the coaching tip. Navigate to the call icon, right? And giving them coaching tips and not really giving every bit of direction. So they're slowly having all of those training wheels taken off. And that is a great way to learn because everyone learns differently. I would maybe have to do a beginner sim, a number of times and then go to the intermediate, practice that. It allows them to do it at their own speed. It really gives them guidance on what to say, where to navigate, instead of being told exactly how to do that. This is where they're beginning to formulate their own words and how to navigate that, but staying in the structure of what is required. And lastly, we've got our advanced Syms. Advanced Syms are the closest thing you will get to the real thing, to the real call, to the real interaction. It's a great use case for testing. Again, those ongoing learning, adoption, that everybody just needs to make sure that they know how to handle this particular situation, make sure that they know the best way to do it. This ensures that everyone is at the same level with that. They're all communicating something the same way. And again, it's a great use case for new candidate. How many of you have ever done maybe you've done an interview, or maybe you yourself have done an interview or being interviewed, where they said, what's your level proficiency with Excel? And it says, give me a 1 to 5, 5 being an expert. And, I mean, that's kind of hard to gauge. Most people might write a 4, but what really is a 4? Well, now you can actually create this in SymTrain, and you can know exactly what a 4 means right out of the gate. So it's a great use case for that. So advanced Syms, again, are the closest thing you can get to the real thing, allowing them to practice what this feels like and all the anxiety and all of that excitement that goes with that, and be able to practice it in this safe place. And then, you know what? If they don't feel good in a certain place, they can go back, do the intermediate again, and then they'll only get better, right? And that's the beauty of it. And that's where Kalpana is saying, using and breaking the processes down, especially those longer or more complex ones that tend to get the lowest QA scores until a certain level. Those are the places where maybe you break it really down, and they can go back and forth between the intermediate and advanced once they get to a certain level, with being good with the beginner. So that is really, I mean, advanced Syms have a lot of great use cases, especially with testing, all kinds of things that you can do to ensure that people are retaining and maintaining the level of excellence with what they need to know. So any questions about that as we kind of went through all of the use cases? Hopefully your mind is going and thinking of different ways that you can utilize SymTrain to create these different levels for all of the different processes that you're training your teams on. Any questions? Okay. All right. Well, like I said, this is a 2-part series of, and so next week, just to kind of give you a little bit of a heads up, and I'm actually going to tell Anne, Anne's going to put up on a survey. We're always interested to hearing what you want this session to be about, and how you're liking it. So if you see a survey pop up, please respond to that while I continue, and I appreciate your response. Next week we have part 2 of this series. So next week I'm going to be joined by one of our sim creation specialists. Her name is Prachi Giovanni. And she makes Sims all the time. She is so great at it. So you're going to have an expert here, and we are going to navigate, what a good beginner sim looks like, different things, how to make intermediate Sims. There's a couple of different ways you can make them in terms of putting the coaching tip on the speaking side, or doing it just as a script line where they read it. So different ways of making that. And then we'll create the advanced sim. So advanced, again, all of the information for these levels is all behind there. All of the keywords that you put in there are still in the simulation. It's just that you're giving them those different levels to be able to learn, and really get proficient with the skills. So I hope you'll join us next week for that. That should be great, because we're just going to jump right into SymTrain and show you different ways. So please come with your questions. And like I said, we'll have Prachi here, and she does it all the time, and she is an expert. So Any other questions? It's been great talking with you today. Thank you for doing the survey. And if there's no other questions, we'll sign off for today. But thank you for joining. Please join us next week. And if you need anything at all, Jamie at SymTrain, we're always here to help and answer your questions. And looking forward to another great session next week and beyond. So I hope you all have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Jamie. Awesome.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Jamie.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.